Good morning. This is Mighty Stream. I'm excited to be with you on Sunday, April 3rd, and I can't wait to get into the Just for Today with you today. Well, I slept really well. I'm waking up gingerly though. I took a fall last week and had to go to ER. I didn't have any broken bones or anything like that. But I'm seeing that I'm very bruised and it's taking some time to move around a little bit more time than usual today. I hope that you're feeling good. I hope that you're feeling good. My spirit is great. You know, a lot of times my physical person does not match up with my spiritual person. And I have to bring the energy, I have to bring the passion, bring the positivity. And eventually, I find that if I just start out, if I just start my day in a spirit of gratitude for the day, just for the day, if I start my day out in a spirit of gratitude and I go forward into the day believing that no matter what my physical body is saying, right? And don't mind me, please don't get it mistaken. If there is something going on with me physically, I will get physical attention if I perceive that's needed. And I did, but there are no broken bones. So everything else, right, can be dealt with. It's just soreness, bruises, right? And I just move forward in positivity. I refuse to, I don't know. I do have some mornings that I wake up and I feel like spiritually my mood is not where it needs to be. And you know, on those days, I'm more gentle with myself and I practice being gentle with other people, especially on those days where my physical self and my spiritual self are not matching. They're not adding up quick enough, right? I make sure I take the time to do my prayer and my meditation every day. I love stretching. I love my coffee. There's a few things that I love to do without any other person involved in that. And I make sure I do that. Right. And especially on those days where I feel like Mighty Stream spiritual person is not where it needs to be. I make sure that I'm more kind and more gentle, intentionally more patient with the boys, intentionally more patient with my husband, intentionally more patient and relaxed, breathing properly when I'm interacting with other people. Because when you're not feeling good, when you're not yourself, people can pick up those micro facial expressions. They can pick up the nonverbal communication, the heavy sighs, the tapping of your toe, you know, your foot. And so I try to make sure that I'm careful on those days. So today, I believe, is a great day. I feel my spirit person feels wonderful. I'm excited. I took a peek at the Just for Today for the NA meditation. I took a peek at it and I feel like this one might stretch me a little bit. It didn't register, like the title of it did not register with me immediately. And so I feel like it might stretch me a little bit. Let's look at this. Let's see. Okay, April 3rd, for you alone. I think what I don't like about this particular screen share is that it has the year 2022. I can never figure out which website I'm going to when I share it, but I'm going to have to be more mindful because I want for this to be readily available throughout the years. And the Just for Today meditation, far as I know, it has not changed since they created it, right? Since they first published it. So when you buy the book, you will not see a year. And so I just want to be more mindful of that this you can use throughout the years for April 3rd. All right. For You Alone, page 97 in the Just for Today NA meditation. And it quotes the basic text on page 49. And it says, "The ideal of a spiritual awakening takes many different forms in the different personalities that we find in the fellowship. Though we all work the same steps, each of us experiences the spiritual awakening result from them in our own way. The shape that spiritual awakening takes in our lives will vary depending on who we are. For some of us, the spiritual awakening promised in the 12th step will result in a renewed interest in religion or mysticism. Others will awaken to an understanding of the lives of those around them, experiencing empathy perhaps for the first time. Still others will realize that the steps have awakened them to their own moral or ethical principles. Most of, it, most of us experience our spiritual awakening as a combination of these things, each combination as unique as the individuals who's been awakened. If there are so many different varieties of spiritual awakenings, how do we know if we truly had one? The 12th step provides us with two signs. We found principles capable of guiding us well, the kind of principles we want to practice in all our affairs, and we begun to care enough about other addicts to freely share with them the experience we've had. No matter what the details of our awakenings are like, we all are given the guidance and the love we need to live fulfilling, spiritually oriented lives. Just for today, regardless of its particular shape, my spiritual awakening has helped me fill my place in the world with love and life. For that, I am grateful." That's a very powerful share right there. That's a very, very powerful Just for Today meditation. I have some tickle in my throat today. So I like that. So we're talking about the 12th step, and the 12th step tells us having had, right? Matter of fact, in Narcotics Anonymous, right, the 12th step is the only step that doesn't start with the word we. It it personalizes. It personalizes the work that we've been doing, and it gives you a guiding post to determine whether or not you have come to the point where your spiritual improvement, your awakening, right? Your spirit man, your spirit inner person has had the sort of awakening that is now, I don't kind of have to say, it culminates to these two things. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all our affairs. That's step 12. So, what we're talking about here is understanding that as each individual works the same steps, at this point, at the 12th step, when you get to the 12th step, this is no longer about we, even though collectively we should be having a very similar experience in the 12th step. But we're not talking about we at this point. This is the only step in this basic text that does not start with the word we, right? Because There has to be the acknowledgement that everyone's spiritual awakening will look as different as many human beings as there are, right? Some people will say 12, NA brought me to God and God brought me to NA, right? But the fruit that you see lets you know that they have not come to the point of the 12th step, because they're still very much self-centered individuals. They have not reached that um, spiritual condition that they feel they can shout about it from the rooftop, that this is something that they want to try to carry to other suffering people. We're very specific in this fellowship to say that the disease of addiction manifests itself spiritually, mentally, and physically. So this even works for church folks, right? This works for non-churched folks. It says that some people will experience, listen, let's look at this really close. Let's look at it really close. Will result in a renewed interest in religion or mysticism. Other people will experience in the sense that now they're experiencing empathy. They're able to understand and to have compassion for the people around them and what they're going through. Some people, they go through the 12 steps and haven't had a spiritual awakening. They don't end up in church. Like I told you yesterday, when I was going over March 2nd, this is not a religion. That's why people well known in this community can hear me do the Just for Today in a meditation and say, wow, this is something that is applicable to everyone. Everyone needs this, right? Because of who I am, right? And because of where I've come from spiritually, religiously, I endured so much religious abuse, right? So when I talk about where I'm at today, spiritually speaking, this having had a spiritual awakening, the way that I walk that out, the way that I practice the 12th step is by doing things like this. I try to make sure that the newcomer understands that this is a spiritual program. You were suffering from a spiritual malady. You were diseasy. You were uneasy. There was something that was not okay. And I don't know what that is. You can figure that out when you do your 4th step, right? And your 5th step. I don't know what that is, but there was some uneasiness. There was some dis-ease about you that caused you to need something outside, right? Outside of yourself in order to make the inside feel okay. And that spiritual void, most likely if you're in this program, resulted in you using some mood or mind altering substance. Oh, I wish you could be in this room with me right now where I am. Because I probably say this every day, but I truly feel this. I feel this discussion. I feel this through and through every fiber that I am. I feel this because one of the reasons why people today take their lives, one of the reasons is because they are hopeless. They do not have hope. They are overwhelmed with their life circumstances. They are overwhelmed with guilt. They are overwhelmed with shame. They are hopeless in that moment. And yeah, they may have some mental illness, definitely, because I've indicated that this is a mental thing too, right? The disease of addiction manifests itself mentally. But the point is that they, at that moment that they pull the trigger, at that moment, that former Miss USA jumps off the top of a building and takes her life. At that moment that Robin Williams decides that do not want to do this anymore. And that's why I'm so concerned about what's going on in our community in Hollywood. I'm very concerned about Will Smith right now, and I'm very concerned about Chris Rock. I'm very concerned about Jada. I'm concerned about them because I know that you can reach a point where everything is too much, and it is a breaking point. And we have seen publicly the past few breaking points for Will Smith. And so I know if Robin Williams can end his life, then this is something that is greater than him stepping aside from, the academies. This is greater. This is something that could potentially end the actor as we know him if it is not handled in a way that brings hope. So a lot of people don't have the same spiritual awakening, but they have the same, ultimately they have the same outcome. The outcome is that having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry the message to the addict that still suffers. So now you're doing service work. Now you are mobilized, right, to go forward with the hope of all the previous steps that you've worked, the experience, strength, and hope of that. You now feel that you want to share. Speaking of share, let me stop the share. You now feel that you want to move forward and help others. And you don't necessarily have to have like a, you don't have to have like a designated group of people, right? I've been in this program for 28 years and 6 months. And what I did in the beginning when I first had my spiritual awakening and what I've done today are two different things. The essence of them are the same. Initially, it was just doing service work on the area level. Every anonymous group has a representative that is chosen by the members of that group, right? It sort of looks like a political structure. Every group has a group service representative, and that is the designated individual that conducts a monthly business meeting and discusses whatever the group needs to discuss, but it also discusses what the area level is talking about. And then that representative goes to that area meeting once a month. And even area has a representative that goes to the regional business meeting once a month. And regional has a representative or two that go to the district level. Right. So initially, my service work looked like chairing in-person meetings in South Bend, Indiana. And it looked like doing service work at the area level as the group's representative. I really wasn't, other than making sure that the meetings were open and conducted properly, and carrying whatever our votes were. I really didn't do sponsorship. I didn't sponsor people. I really wasn't into that. But some people thrive. They're carrying the message. Their 12-step proof, right, is doing sponsorship. I didn't get to that till later. And it was one of the best experiences that I had ever had, right? Now, the second part of that, let me get to that because I want to finish this in a timely fashion. The second part of that 12-step talks about practicing these principles in all our affairs. And I really like how it puts it. I want to go back to that screen. I really like how it puts it. Okay, so here it is. Let me just highlight all of it for you. The 12th step provides us with two signs. We found principles capable of guiding us well, the kind of principles we want to practice in all our affairs. And we've begun to care about other addicts, to freely share with them the experience we've had. So that this last part right here is the first sign that is mentioned. And then this one is we found principles capable of guiding us well, the kind of principles we can practice in all our affairs. We want to practice. Now, I want to talk about whether or not you or myself or anyone listening has found the type of spiritual principles that they want to work in all their affairs. I remember this lady, she had a dream about me, and she said, "Mighty Stream, you won't believe what happened in this dream. I saw you in this dream, and you need to know what I saw." And I was like, "Okay, tell me, girl." You know, so I was like, "Okay," because I'm a dreamer, right? I'm like a female Joseph. I'm a dreamer. So I was like, "Okay, so what did you see?" She said, "I saw all these tents, like First Nation or Native American teepees. They were all white. And you could tell that they all had like smoke coming up, right, from the top." She said, "I saw all of these uh, tents, teepees. They were all white. And I would see you bend down really low. You'd go into one, and then you come out and your arms was full with stuff. And then you'd walk over to a very large teepee that was larger than all of these other small ones. And you go in, you dip down, and you put your stuff down that you had taken from one teepee into this larger one. And then you come out, you go into another one. And every one that you came out, your arms would have things in them that were gifted to you. And then you go and put them in the larger teepee." She said, "I watched you go around to about 12 different ones. And it was always the same. You stooped down, you went in, and you came out with your arms full of things that have been gifted to you. And then you go put them in this larger teepee." And she said, "I don't know what this means or anything like that, but that's what I saw." And I said, "Oh, thank you. That really blesses me." I knew instantly. I knew instantly that that was talking about my 12th step. I knew instantly that I was being given the affirmation, given the approval that my spiritual principles, my spiritual awakening, my spiritual field was not going to look the same as everyone else's, but that I was going to be collecting the beauty of each experience. And then I would come up with this huge experience that was created just for me, right? And so I really feel this just for today because I think that some people, they have always been in church, or they've always gone to the mosque. They've always done the same thing over and over and over. And then they have this encounter with the Just for Today in a meditation, or they have this encounter with a recovery program, and they are increased, not decreased, they're increased because now you're being given I want to call it like a manual, a spiritual manual, a guidebook that accommodates the disease of addiction. It accommodates that malady, right? And so because you can feel human and you can have a voice and talk about the things that are disturbing you. That's where hope comes from, right? Is that you can collectively share with one another, but also you can also receive hope just by listening to the experience of other people. Hmm. It's amazing to me the individuality as well as the collectiveness of this program. And I want to say the international, this worldwide, this uh, this commonness that really is not that complicated. It just has to be translated into other languages where people can understand it, but it's applicable universally. That's the word I'm looking for. It's applicable universally. Individual can take the spiritual principles from these 12 steps and apply them to eating disorders. They can apply them to relationship issues. They can apply them to overcoming religiosity. They can apply them to being agnostic or atheist, whatever your faith system is that you hold dear. This is applicable to everyone. There's little groups throughout this nation, and I'll say throughout the world, where one, my religion is not your concern, right? What my faith is, religiously speaking, is not your concern. But there are groups that are predominantly um, made up of individuals that are Muslim. They work the same recovery program as I do, and they do service work, and they carry the message and have spiritual principles that they believe in and want to apply to all their affairs. And that's why I love this. That's why I love it, is because no one is excluded. You cannot tell me that anyone. I remember the first time I heard there was a women's meeting. And I remember the girl that was telling me that this is a women's NA meeting. I was like, I don't see why we need to designate, but okay, because there are different conversations that women need to have, right? But the minute we start to try and divide, then people start thinking that there's a uniqueness. But this program is written in such a way that it doesn't matter if you're male or female, doesn't matter if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Gandhi, it doesn't matter. It does not matter if you don't have a religion. It doesn't matter if you're agnostic or atheist. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter what your faith is, your religion is. It has no bearing on your ability to choose a higher power, a God of your own understanding, and start walking the journey of these 12 steps and these spiritual principles. And so that's what this Just for Today is about today, is your 12 step, your 12-step proof. How are you helping others? And how are you able to take the spiritual principles and apply it in every area? You want something that you can put on top of every emotion, every situation. You want something that, like in that dream, that you've gathered and put together, that works and makes you a better person for yourself and those around you into the world. My name is Mighty Stream. I'm brought to you by Hope Through Navigation. This is the Hood Recovery Services. Hood, HOOD, is an acronym that stands for Hope Offered on Demand. And one day at a time, just for today, I am creating recordings using the just for today in a meditation that will forever be made available. And so I hope that you're encouraged by that. March will be complete this today. March will be complete today. And you will be able to always have the month of March and April pretty soon. I'm going to do them a day at a time. And there might be some days that I feel inclined to do more than one. But I like this feeling of just for the day. I like the discipline that doing the podcast is bringing to my life. Being able, having thoughts and thinking them, but being able to share them with others has really been good for my soul. I want you to have a beautiful day. And remember, just for today, just for today, be the best you that you can be. Thank you for listening.